Hello everyone, and welcome to another video with me, Umber Rays, as we take a brand new video series into the light. This is FFBE Theorycraft, a series that is about promoting brand new creative ideas, or at least trying to, by taking characters that we know are going to eventually show up into the game and turning the ideas on their head. Whether or not these ever do come to fruition or not is totally not up to me, but in the meantime it might be kind of fun to think about what could be rather than what isn't. So let's talk about what other character than the character I talked about in my previous video in my predictions for March, but Ardyn. Because despite what anybody really says about him, Ardyn is a pretty interesting character, if not really fully well developed during Final Fantasy 15. He is a betrayed character. He is this character who has demonic powers. He is just kind of this really cool villain. And if you think that Ardyn being a villain is considered a spoiler, get over yourself. But Ardyn is a character that has always been really interesting to me, if not kind of improperly used. He just never kind of got the background or development that he really needed to in FF15, although, or should I say, it's alluded to and really talked about too late. I'm hoping that the DLC that he is getting is really going to flush him out as a villain to make playing Final Fantasy 15 again, you know, a little bit different, to just know of what he is about and whatnot. And I mean, this guy is just really cool as he goes through the game and basically plays a giant chess game trying to get revenge, and that's really cool. So before I talk too much about this Theorycraft, I do want to mention that there will be spoilers in here for episode Ardyn based on the press releases that is out there. So be fair warned, I'm going to talk a little bit about the gameplay of episode Ardyn. And that's your warning. So episode Ardyn has been detailed by... I hope that was nothing. Episode Ardyn has been detailed by Square Enix in a press release lately where it talked about what the gameplay is going to be like. Episode Ardyn will see you infiltrating the city of Insomnia, basically Noctis's home and his kingdom, essentially. Now, this is really cool. For one thing, it kind of just flies in the face of a lot of the other DLCs, which were a shooter, beat 'em up of sorts, as well as episode Ignis, which was also very combat-based. This looks really interesting, the idea of actually infiltrating the Crown City and laying forth towards its destruction as we learn more about Ardyn's past. You'll be able to warp around using shadow points, basically using kind of Ardyn's abilities, which were shown off in the actual release of Final Fantasy 15, and you'll also be able to corrupt people, turning them into kind of mindless demons that will not attack you as sort of a strategic element. I really like the look so far of episode Ardyn, not only because of just, so many different, really cool things, like the idea of a little bit more stealth, a little bit more of corruption, playing off of the character's story and whatnot, which will help us not only, get a sense of the character, but also just be able to kind of get a better idea of their abilities. So yeah, I'm a big fan of what episode Ardyn looks like. So where does this come in with my Theorycraft? Well, Theorycraft-wise, I have thought of a kit for Ardyn that is quite different from many other units. Rather than just making him yet another DPS with slightly higher numbers and a different chain and family and a different element for variety, I thought that we could do something really cool with Ardyn based on his abilities. There are many units that provide support in the game in different ways, and I thought, hey, what if support was a little bit different? So, Ardyn would be a character on your team that would be considered a DPS support class. What kind of support would he be able to do? Well, here's where the Theorycraft comes in, because Brave Exvius is not a game that really can support a ton of new features. Its core design is basically very, very focused around doing a couple of things, and a couple of things particularly well. Again, see blue magic. See the history about blue magic in this game if you really want to understand that, or in a future upcoming video series by me. But I do want to talk about what I think Ardyn would be like. So, Ardyn would be on your team, however, one of his abilities, potentially a cooldown ability, would be able to place demonic enemies on the opponent's side. Now, how would this work exactly? Well, these demonic creatures would be on the opponent's side, meaning that AoE attacks that would hit your side would not affect the demons. Demons would be able to provide a sort of offense and healing and defensive capabilities by providing buffs, healing, or damage to the enemy. Sorry, buffs or support for your team, damage to the enemy. Basically, by sitting on the other side, they would not be easy. They would not be easy for the boss to kill. And this is where the Theorycraft gets a little bit deeper, but the main idea is placing kind of sentries on the enemy side. This would also put constrictions on the player too, because you would be putting, things that you would want to protect on the enemy. It would change how your team format would be. Not being able to use AoE DPS, but instead would have to use focus DPS, so not to destroy your own allies, her demonic allies that you have placed on the enemy's side. It would be to me really interesting to have this kind of balance of putting enemies on enemy side that would just kind of provide support for you. Also, to combat this, bosses would be able to attack their own side of the field, basically killing these demonic enemies that you have placed on there to give support. However, enemies' DPS would then be able to be used against itself and would absorb an attack that could be then not used against your own party. Bosses would still have multi-attacks, but instead would have to waste some of those attacks attacking your support that is you have placed on the enemy's side. This would make for a kind of very interesting balance of, support, a different form of tanking that is not evasion or just an incredibly high tank that we have placed on our own team, but would provide a new form of support. Now, how exactly this would work, the exact stats and numbers, how powerful would they be, would obviously have to be in sort of balance. Maybe if you place, 2 healers on the enemy side, they would each heal 3,000 points of HP to you at the start of each turn. But I really think it's such a cool thing that Ardyn does have, this idea of corrupting his own allies or his own enemies to make a sort of support for himself in order to further his own goals. The idea of just having Ardyn as yet another version of Noctis or another DPS out there is really quite boring, especially when looking at his DLC seems to have such interesting mechanics. So yes, when it comes to my Theorycraft of Ardyn, Ardyn would be a very support DPS. He could still dish out damage, but by placing corruptions on the field, he would be able to, help support the team by making those corruptions the targets of enemies' attacks, as well as those corruptions being able to support your team. I also think it's an interesting idea to, since, how do I put this? It is impossible for Brave Exvius mechanically to have any more characters on your side of the field, as far as I know. It is, however, possible to have numerous enemies on the enemy side of the field, which made me think that this would be a good use of space that has been, well, completely ignored up until this point. The zombie status effect is not currently in the game, and which is always been a shame to me. Zombie is an interesting idea and an interesting status effect that kind of makes you have to really think about sometimes healing when a boss implies zombie to you and you just naturally heal and kill yourself. That has always been kind of just an annoying thing, but another interesting mechanic. The idea of using the enemy's field to your advantage is an idea that has not been tested but does not seem out of the realm of plausibility for Brave Exvius. It feels very much like this is something that we could use to our benefit to make a new mechanic for a new type of unit in this game. But really, when it comes right down to it, this is all theorycraft. Really, it is up to the game makers at Alum to see if they can come up with something like this, or if this is even possible, given the client that is Final Fantasy Brave Exvius. However, I need to say that personally, I am super excited for episode Ardyn. I'm interested in him coming to the game. But really, I am thirsty. I am so thirsty. And straight DPS just isn't interesting anymore. Neither is specific roles. At this point, Brave Exvius is really hurting for some new blood. Not even just in the new event, but in character types and things that characters can do. We've exhausted the realm of possibilities with chains, chain families, chainers, chain finishers, and, let's be honest, healers that can chain. Really, at this point, some new mechanics would go a long way. So, while it may already be too late because the character is already finalized and probably everything is already done, I submit this theorycraft to all of you out there to tell me what you think about it, because honestly, given the sounds of the DLC, I'll be a little disappointed, I feel like, with anything that comes out for Ardyn. But here's hoping. So thank you all very much for watching. I hope that we see these new mechanics very soon in whatever creative ways, because really, creativity is much better than just continuing on the same path we have been. So thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video, which right now I want to talk about at the end of this video. Recently, YouTube creators such as Howl and Clayik have thrown their hat into the ring by talking about some major complaints on the global side. Well, for the last month, I have been strongly considering what exactly I want to talk about, and that is the state of FFBE and other gotchas. So look forward to the future, because I am going to be making a 3-part video series talking about the state of FFBE. Not only FFBE, but Epic 7 and Hearthstone as it pertains from the lessons that we can learn from these other successful and marginally successful games. So, yes, I look very much forward to making these and making more theorycrafts in the future. But for now, as I near the 3,000 subscriber mark, I would like to thank everyone for the support that you have continually given me as I continually try to improve. Hang on to your hats. The State of FFBE trilogy of videos is going to be a rough ride. Thank you all for watching. See you next time.